Hi guys, it's Mr. Gonzalez again, here with lesson 23, Sharps. The main objective of this lesson is to be able to identify sharp notes. Let's go! The sharp sign before a note raises the pitch of that note. On the keyboard, play the next key to the right, whether black or white. So let's try and find D sharp. We need to go one key to the right. Some might say it's E, but we have this black key in between D and E, so our D sharp will be here on the black key. When speaking of sharp notes, the word sharp comes after the letter name, as in C sharp. However, in writing music, the sharp sign comes before the note. To draw a sharp sign, first draw two vertical lines, like these two. Next, add the heavier slanted lines. Make sure to slant your lines upward. When a sharp sign is attached to a line note, the sharp is centered on the line, as seen here. When a sharp sign is attached to a space note, the sharp is centered in the space, as seen here. Let's take a look at some exercises. For our first exercise, we are going to write sharp signs before each note, then name the notes. Let's go. Let's add our sharp signs to all of our notes. Remember, if you have a note on the space, the center of the sharp should be in the center of the space. And if you have a note on the line, your sharp should be centered on the line. Now that we have all our sharps in place, let's take a look at what we have. So first, we're in Treble Clef. Just a reminder, your Treble Clef sentence for your lines is every good boy does fine, and then all the spaces spell face. So you have F, A, C, and then E. Now that we got that taken care of, let's take a peek at what we have here. We see a note on the first space, so we know that's an F. So here we have F sharp. Next we see a note on the third space, so here we have a C sharp. Coming down here, we see a note on the second line. Our second line is G, so this note will be G sharp. Now we have a note on the second space. Our second space is A, so here we have A sharp. Next we see a note on the fourth line. Our fourth line note is D, so now we have D sharp. We have a note on the fifth line. Our fifth line is F, so here we have F sharp. All the way down here, we see a note on the first line. Our first line is E, so we have an E sharp. Back up the staff again, we see a note on the fourth space. Our fourth space is another E, so we will put E sharp again. And then down here, we have a note on the third line. Our third line is B, so we have B sharp. For our next exercise, we are going to write the names of the piano keys in the blank boxes. Let's go. If you remember from earlier in the lesson, we said the sharp sign before a note raises the pitch of that note. On the keyboard, play the next key to the right, whether black or white, in order to find the key. So we're going to use that to help us solve these problems. So our first blank key we see is in between C and D. So if we start on C and go directly to the right, which is right here, we know that this will be C sharp. Let's come over to our next blank key. We see a key between F and G. So if we start on our F and we go directly to the right, now we have F sharp. Let's find our next blank key, and it's right here between A and B. So if we start at the A and go directly to the right, we have A sharp. Our next blank key is right here in between D and C. So if we start on D, go directly to the right, we have D sharp. And then for our last blank key, it is right here between G and A. If we start on G, go up 1 to the right, we have G sharp. For our next exercise, I have already written the treble clef for us. We need to write the notes indicated on the staff using quarter notes. Let's get started. Since I went over how to identify the lines and spaces of the treble clef earlier, I'll skip that right now. So for our first note, we need F sharp. We know we have an F here on the first space and an F on top on the fifth line. I'll use this F. Next, we need a B sharp. We know we have B right here on the third line, so our B sharp will go right there. Next, we need a D sharp. We have a D right here on the fourth line, so we can put our D sharp right here. Next, we need a G sharp. We know there is a G right here on the second line, so our G sharp can go right there. Now, we need an A sharp. We have an A right here on the second space, so our A sharp can go right there. Next, we need E sharp. We have two locations for E sharp, one on the first line and the other on the fourth space. I will use the first line for our E sharp. And lastly, we need a C sharp. We know we have a C on the third line, so our C sharp can go right here. For our last exercise, I have already drawn the bass clef for us. We need to write the notes indicated on the staff using dotted half notes. Let's go. I will quickly go over our line sentence for bass clef. We have good, boys, do, fine, always, and for our spaces we have all, cows, eat, grass. For our first note, we need a C sharp. We know we have a C right here on the second space, so our C sharp can go right there. Next, we need an A sharp. There are two A's we can pick from, the A on the first space or the A on the fifth line. I'll go with the A on the fifth line, so our A sharp can live up there. Next, we need F sharp. We know the F is right here on the fourth line, so our F sharp can be on the fourth line. Next, we need B sharp. Our B is right here on the second line, so our B sharp will hang out right there. Next, we need a G sharp. We know we have two locations for G, one on the first line and the other on the fourth space. Let's use the first line G sharp. Next, we need a D sharp. We know we have a D sharp right here on our third line. And lastly, we need an E sharp. We can put our E sharp right here on the third space. And that's it for today's lesson, guys. I hope you feel more confident in your ability to identify sharps. In our next lesson, we will look at naturals.